Alright, this is Eric with the second episode of Influenced. Tonight, it's going well tonight, but this episode, I'm sitting on my front porch on this beautiful night that God has given us, drinking some Evan and Coke, because I can afford Jack. Anyways, the last time I did this, I talked about crossfitting and ragweed and how big of an influence they were on me. Now I'm going to talk about Graham Parsons. He was born in, just some basic background, and I'll get into how I got to know him and all that other stuff. I'm just getting situated. More whiskey. But he was born November 5th, 1946, the same year that John Prine died. The same year that John Prine was born, sorry. I just got through talking about John Prine on my Facebook, and he passed away yesterday at the age of 73 due to the coronavirus, which sucks. We've lost a lot of good ones. Kenny Rogers passed away not long ago. John Prine. There's two other ones, I think, that had passed away. I'd have to go back and really look. But if you've never heard of me, my name's Eric Stone. I'm a music lover. I research it all the time. I write country songs, rock songs, starting to write rap songs. I want to start a band. I want to be a motivational speaker, all that good jazz. But I'll put more into another thing I've got called Dream Big and Walk by Faith, which I'm going to record here in a little bit. And I'll probably put it up tomorrow. So we'll be looking for that. But anyways, Graham Parsons, he died September 19th, 1973, from a tequila and heroin overdose in room 8 of the Joshua Tree Inn, which I've always wanted to go and stay in room 8. I want to write a song about Graham Parsons. I want to write a book that's based off album Graham Parsons. Excuse me. I also got a novel in the works called One Last Dance with the Devil. I got the idea from two of my favorite songwriters, Chris Knight and Cross Canadian Ragweed, which, like I said, I talked about in the last video. I kind of just put these two together as a story. What was started out was Chris Knight had come out with a song. I think it was on one of his earlier records called Hard Edges. It was on an acoustic record, and I didn't really listen to it much. I just didn't care for it at the time. To me, it came out with Trailer Tapes, the first edition. It was on there, but it was just one of them songs I just didn't care for at the time, and I love a lot, most of Chris Knight's songs I love. Becky's Bible is my favorite. But, so, we drink whiskey. But anyways, it's his, but it came out on not his last CD, but the CD before. It was like the last track, I think it had a banjo. And there was just something about the banjo sound on that song that made that song fucking awesome. I mean, fucking awesome. And then I was like, man, I wish Chris Knight would write a novel And then I was reading in an article that he said he never don't have the, not ability, but what's the word? He just don't want to do it. You know, he don't have the oomph to do it or whatever. I'll think of it here in a little bit. But anyways, so, and then I took that Hard Edges video, or subject matter, and then with Cross Canyon Ragweed, Sick and Tired, which is on their Soul Gravy album, which is probably my favorite album of theirs. It's a toss-up between that and Garage. It's a toss-up between them. I really can't figure out which one I like more. But, and it's about this woman named Prudence Mayflowers. She's a registered nurse at a hospital. And she's got a 4-year-old daughter named Jasmine. And her old boyfriend comes back and tries to beat her, wants custody of Jasmine, and breaks down the door, and she moves in with her friend for a little bit, and ends up buying a gun to protect herself because she's that scared of him. Because he moved off to Las Vegas for a while, and all he's done is whiskey and dope. Or cocaine. Well, I guess dope, but cocaine. And he comes back wanting full custody and this and that, and she ends up shooting him in self-defense. But there's going to be a crooked lawyer or crooked judge in that fictional town, which I based it off of Fort Smith, Arkansas. And then, so she does 3 or 4 years in prison, federal prison, because the judge was crooked and knew her boyfriend name, Ralph. And then she ends up, once she gets out of jail or prison, she finds it hard to, she lost her job, due to the circumstances. She can't find a job any other hospitals around or, in the surrounding areas, and she just, first it starts as it is what it is, and then it becomes deeper and deeper into depression. Then she ends up drinking and smoking pot. I think that's how I'm going to have it go. But she ends up stripping across the state lines at this bar. It's all fictional, but it's based off places where I live. And she ends, at first she just strips just to make money, just to get, make money to get by, because she don't want to work McDonald's or a minimum wage job, from being a registered nurse to that, Like I said, and then she starts drinking at first, and then the drinking leads to a little bit of pot, and the pot leads to cocaine, and the cocaine leads to pills. Pills leads to heroin, She can go through all of that, loses her daughter, she stays with her best friend, and she ends up damn near dying, or overdosing on the street, and another guy finds her that she dated for a while named Derek Kingsland. And how that got on Grand Parsons, I don't know. But, and he finds her because he works as an EMT. And then, she goes to rehab and goes to a mental hospital because she wants to kill herself because of all the drugs going through her. Which is, I'm going to talk about a little about that, because some of this is influenced by what I went through. And then, like I said, she starts reading the Bible to, talk about what went wrong, this and that, and then she ends up, clean and sober for the rest of her life. Or wherever I want it to end, I ain't got it ended yet. And she becomes like a motivational speaker to abused and battered women. So, and then, like I said, I don't know, I just thought of this really like a while ago. don't know if she'll ends up marrying Derek or not. I haven't figured that out yet. But, excuse me. But anyways, that's a little bit who I am. Let's get back to Graham Parsons. But, excuse me. Let's drink some more whiskey. But anyways, Graham Parsons, like I said, he died in 1973 in, where did he? Or Joshua Tree, California. We talked about that, sorry. I got my cheat sheets because I'm not good at memorizing anything. He started getting, he started off like being, influenced by black singers. And, but when he attended Harvard, his, family was rich, like buku rich. For back in the day, they had owned a orange plantation, oranges, and they'd make orange juice and vodka. No shit, it's in his biography. Go look it up. I mean, I read half of his biography, but what I loved about Graham Parsons is he could have done anything in the world. You know, he had the money to go anywhere, do anything he wanted to. But he wanted to sing country music, which I think is badass. He cared about being rich, but he didn't. I don't know if that makes sense. Because it was, I know I was reading his biography that, after, you know, he was getting like a monthly or yearly check, I can't remember, because of the descendants of, or the generations or whatever, like $15,000 a year just to, you know, that was just handed down to him. It might have been more than that, which was a lot back in the late 60s or 70s. I mean, it's a lot more than it is now. But like I said, he went to Harvard, but he flunked out after one semester mainly because he didn't go. He wanted to get out of the South to pursue his music. That's the only reason why he went to Harvard, because it was out of Florida. He was born in Waycross, Georgia, but they moved to Florida for the orange groves. That's what the word I was looking for. Orange groves. And like I said, but he didn't want nothing to do with that. He was very could learn by ear, was, you know, piano, guitar, whatever. Or that was his two main instruments, was those two. But, you know, but he moved out to, California. I think that's where Harvard's at. I don't know. And, founded the International Submarine Band. It was, I'd probably say, the first country rock band. But, to me, that's what he was, is the father of country rock. But he hated that term with a passion. Fucking hated it. He dubbed it as Cosmic Americana music, because it just wasn't country and rock he mixed together. The critics say he mixed it so into squeeze, I can't say that word even when I've not been drinking, so much that you couldn't tell what was country, what was rock. He just loved both of them so much. But, you know, he was influenced by Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson, George Jones, Topple Glazier, which he ended up recording Streets of Baltimore later on in his life. All of them, Merle Haggard, Buck Owens, all of them old country singers. But anyways, he founded the International Submarine Band in 1966. And they came out with one album, and it was after they disbanded. Because he was always looking for something better, something new. But they had one album called Safe at Home. It had Blue Eyes, which he wrote. And there's another song on that album that he wrote himself. There's some other songs. Then, after disbanding from the International Submarine Band, he joined the Byrds. Roger McGuinn, Chris Hillman. I'm trying to think of what their driver's name was. I can't think of it right now. But what was funny is he met Chris Hillman somehow. I can't remember how they met up. And like Roger McGuinn said, he goes, we were hiring a piano player, but we ended up hiring a lead singer. He was so charismatic and loved so much of his own music and country music and rock music and bluegrass and gospel and all this other stuff, that he was such an impact that year in 1968, yeah, Sweetheart of the Rodeo had come out, and he's like, a lot of the people that knew the Byrds, like, this is a country record. This is not typical Byrd stuff, because they were doing Bob Dylan folk stuff and rock back then. But he had Hickory Wind, I think, was on that album, and there's another song on that. There was a couple songs that he wrote solely on that. But like I said, he was so influential and charismatic that like people just gravitate. And he never made it that big. He never did. But I'll get to that afterwards. But after he left the Byrds to pursue another project with Chris Hillman, which was the Flying Burrito Brothers, and they had their first album was Gilded Palace of Sin, one of my favorite albums, hands down, probably top 10 album of all time ever made by anybody in any genre. What was that? Hang on, real quick. Oh, Sweetheart of the Rodeo, that's what it was. But anyways, they went on this tour in across country for that record, but they were so damn drugged out, they didn't know what they're doing half the time. Half the time he couldn't sing. He got so stoned and so drunk before concerts. But like I think Chris Hillman said, when he was on, he was the baddest motherfucker to ever walk the planet. He goes, but when he was off, he was off. He goes, we would come in, we would start off with a fast shuffle, and he'd do a ballad, and we're like, whoa, we gotta slow the drum beat down, because you just didn't know. He was, a big time drug. That's why he died at 26. He died at 26. He didn't even make it into the class of 27. But and even Paul Kaufman, was it Paul Kaufman? No, not Paul. His road manager, I can't think of what his name is. I just thought I was reading about it earlier. But, not Paul, what was Kaufman was his last name. But anyways, said even if, he would have stuck around, he still would have died early, just because that was his lifestyle. In his family, there was depression, there was alcoholism, there was drug use, there was so much stuff. It's like, I think, was it Chris Hillman said it was like a Tennessee Williams, or no, it was Emmylou Harris that said it was like a it was like a Tennessee Williams play. He goes, you never thought it would happen, but it was all real. Like I said, he was so addicted to drugs, and he loved to party. But like I said, when he was on, man, he was on. But when he was off, forget it, And they got fed up with it. And he started dating David Crosby's. Shut up. No barking. Sorry, my dog's out here. But anyways, come here. Fred, shut up. Come here. Come here. Quit that barking. Sorry. Yeah, I'm getting this all on video. But anyways, Fred! 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 Quit! But anyway, sorry. But like I said, but they didn't want to deal with him because he was so cocky. He was like, he's a shit, you know. But like I said, they fired him because they got tired of, because half the time he wouldn't even show up. He was so either indulged in drugs and alcohol or absorbed them in himself. Then, like I said, after the Flying Burrito Brothers come out with another album called Burrito Deluxe before, it was after they'd broke up, but before the album came out after they broke up, but Graham Parsons was still part of it, but just the songs weren't there. They weren't great. He wasn't even trying. He was so involved in drug use and alcoholism and everything else. And then so they fired him from the Flying Burrito Brothers. And in 1971 or 2, I can't remember, he'd founded the Fallen Angels, which is his country rock band. And but before that, he'd met Emmylou Harris. He was trying to find a woman partner to sing with, like George Jones had Tammy Wynette, Conway Twitty had Loretta Lynn, and some other ones. There was another one I was thinking of. Dolly Parton had, or Kenny Rogers had Dolly Parton. I mean, you know, and he found Emmylou Harris, and he had pretty much the way the story goes is that Chris Bowman pretty much had to like force him to go to meet this girl. Shut up. And but so anyways, and he met her down in, I think, Birmingham, Alabama, at the train station. Just because I think that's where she was from. And like Chris, like, she's nothing but a folk singer, but I think if you work with her a little bit, she'll come into a really good country singer. And he went down there, and he goes, the first time they got together, he goes, what is the hardest song I can think of? And to sing, you know, and she sang, they sang That's All It Took by George Jones. And she's like, she sang along with me. Excuse me. Kind of stuffy up where I'm at. But, you know, and sing along right with her. And with him. You know, as long as you kept eye contact, you know. And they went, their first album was GP. And it had a lot of damn good country songs. We'll Sweep Out the Ashes, Still Feeling Blue, The Song for You, some other stuff. Anyways, and then the next year, he did another song, but it came out, unfortunately, he passed away before it came out, and it was The Grievous Angel. And they had, She Can't Dance, Hearts on Fire, the New Soft Shoe. No, I think that was on the first one. But another, you know, great batch of songs. But like I said, what happened was he was talking about getting clean, you know. There's too much drug use, you know, and he wanted to go on. And he said, one more time, you know. So him and a couple of his friends that went out to Joshua Tree because he loved it so much out there. They ended up doing heroin and tequila, and the next day he was just gone. 26 years old. I mean, as much as an influence he had on not just me, but I mean, just 26 years old, and he has done more for music than I've ever known. You know, a lot of the musicians out there. You know, it seems like the musicians, they don't live as long or die young, have the most impact. You know, there would be no country rock. There would be, to me, there'd be no Eagles. There'd be no, a lot of the Rolling Stones wouldn't have happened. He was a big influence on the Rolling Stones. Actually, I think one album he sang on, I don't think he ever got credit for it, but him and Keith Richards were good buddies. But how I got into him is a buddy of mine that got me into the Red Dirt stuff, Cross, Canadian Ragweed, Jason Ball and the Stragglers, Mickey and the Motor Cars, Reckless Kelly, Josh Abbott, all that stuff. I guess he just randomly found this movie on Showtime or whatever it was called Grand Theft Parsons. And he had was telling me about it one time we were partying years ago. He's like, "You ever heard of Grand Parsons?" I was like, "Not really." He goes, "Dude, look him up. You'll love him." I was like, "Okay." Well, I just happened to go to Target for something. I can't remember what it was. I think I was looking, I can't remember if I was looking for a actual Grand Parsons album, or I just happened to come by it. I can't remember. It's been 10, 20, or not 20, but at least 15 years ago. But it was right when the Reprise concessions. Drink some more whiskey, Eric. Reprise sessions had come out, which was both had GP and the Grievous Angel, and then the alternative versions of a bunch of the songs on there. And it was such an influence on me just because, like I said, you know, I'm trying to think, I can't think of what her name is. I've got her on Facebook. Not lying about that. She was a part of a girl band back then, and knew them somehow. Grand Parsons and the Stones or something, and the Flying Burrito Brothers was playing. No, it was the Fallen Angels. Was playing at this little bar, you know, there's maybe 10 people in the bar, if that. And there's a song, I can't remember what song, I think it was In the Cool of the Night or something, but some song he was singing, and like, she stopped dead in her tracks. I think she was a girl that was on the car video, that rock car video. I cannot remember what her name is. Pamela D. Osborne, maybe? Des something or other. But anyways, you know, whatever she was doing, she looked at him, and he was so good at singing it. That during that one song, that she's like, that was one of the top moments in her rock and roll history ever, you know. That's what she said, you know. And like Keith Richards said, he goes, you know, he had such a voice, he really would make women weep in the audience. He had such a high, lonesome voice, you know. It was a God-given voice, I think, you know, but like I said, just demons got to him, you know. And the bad part is, I don't think back then there was a lot of drug rehabilitations back then, or they weren't doing them a lot back then, you know. Because honestly, I think they would have been, or he would have been bigger than Elvis. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. If he would have went or lived a little bit longer, even 5 or 10 more years, a little bit longer. I mean, he was just right on right there when he passed away. I mean, you know, because right after that, the Eagles came along and bands like that, you know, Polka was going at the time, which one of the, Timothy B. Schmidt, I think is his name, actually ended up in the Eagles. There's actually a song on one of the Eagles albums that's dedicated to Graham Parsons due to his influential music. I mean, you wouldn't have people like Dwight Yoakam, you wouldn't have not Isbell, but Jason Bowen and the Stragglers. You wouldn't have all these people, because before Garth Brooks, he brought people to country music. You know, Garth Brooks did it, but he did it years later. And I'm not dissing Garth by no means, because I love Garth Brooks. But I'm just saying, I mean, just all these alternative rock bands, Wilco, I don't think Wilco would be there. There's another, Jay Farr, I don't think he wouldn't be where he was. That Graham Parsons, I think Ron Adams was a big Graham Parsons fan. I mean, but like I said, just Phil Kaufman, that's who it was. His road manager, not Paul Kaufman, Phil Kaufman. But anyways, that's pretty much what I got on this episode. And I'll upload it, and I'll see y'all later.